if you grew up in the 1980s, there's a good chance you have a favorite playset. You know what I'm talking about. Castle Grayskull, Snake Mountain, the Hall of Justice, the Tower of Doom. We had so many great playsets, and people who collect toys today seem to have forgotten that. The age of the playsets was amazing in the 1980s, and it was a really practical thing. If you were trying to get people interested in a new toy line or even a new size scale, as Mattel was in 1982, creating an entire castle and all sorts of exciting vehicles encouraged kids further to immerse themselves in that world. And playsets were cheap. You could pump them out left and right with every toy line you wanted to release. Until people started to get tired of the same repetitive quality over and over again. How many times can you take two big pieces of plastic that smack together and open up again and put little shelves on them? Too many playsets did almost the exact same thing, and it got old fast. So, toy lines in the 1980s hit a sort of a playset ceiling, which was kids wanted more quality, more elaborate playsets. But those playsets cost a lot of money to make. They took up valuable shelf space. There was a huge investment to put in, and a risk it wouldn't pay off. So what we start seeing towards the end of the 1980s is essentially you only see playsets coming from toy lines that are fighting to stay relevant. So in 1986, Masters of the Universe releases the elaborate Eternia playset to make kids want to come back to the toy line. In 1987, Transformers releases Fortress Maximus, the biggest Transformer toy they'd ever made, to make people care about an ailing Transformers toy line in America. Well, this video isn't about any of those. But I never lost my love for playsets. I adore a good playset. And as a huge fan of robot toys, I adore a giant playset that transforms into a giant robot even more. And I have quite a few of them. I'm a big fan of Titans Returned that came out a few years ago. I have the Metroplex they did. I have the Trypticon. I have the Omega Supreme. I have the Scorponok. I didn't buy the new Fortress Maximus. I like the original one better. But that's not the point. Today's episode is devoted to my absolute favorite robot playset of all time. And I gotta be clear for my Diaclone fans, I'm not counting Great Robot Base or Fortress X, because while they are great playsets and they are great robots, they don't really transform. So, we're doing my favorite transforming robot playset today. And it's not Fortress Maximus, but it's a bit like Fortress Maximus. In fact, it came 3 years after Fortress Maximus in Japan only. We talk about pre-Transformers, but how often do we talk about pre-Power Rangers? So I did one video a long time ago on Power Rangers, and that was the Spider-Man plus Japan equals awesome video, which is going to appear right up top if you take a look. But before they came stateside, I guess they were a little desperate too to try something new to bring people back. I don't know if I'm going to be really honest here. I do a lot of research before I do these episodes. It is hard to get a lot of empirical information about the Sentai series before they came to America. There's a lot of stuff I just don't know. So when we had Turbo Ranger and Fiveman, I don't know if the franchise was doing really well, if it was doing okay, when they suddenly introduced playsets into these lines that have been going for years with the same successful combining robot Megazord thing over and over again. Was it a desperate ploy, or was it just an attempt to do something new? I have no idea. What I do know is in 1989, 2 years after Transformers made their Fortress Maximus, Turbo Ranger created Turbo Builder. And Turbo Builder is disappointing as a playset. It's a big old robot that basically folds over on its stomach, and it's got landing strips on the back. It's lazy, it's unimaginative, it doesn't look very different from what it began as. But I guess it did well enough, because a year later, Bandai gets even more ambitious. And that's when they make a bigger robot/base. Then on top of that, it's not only bigger, it's not only a more elaborate transformation, but, and here's the weirdest part of all, and keep in mind this is 1990, they include, in the thing that you buy, the giant box set with this thing in it, comes with a VHS tape of Fiveman episodes from the TV series. That might not sound like a big deal to you today, but in 1990, VHS tapes were a big deal. And getting TV shows on VHS was practically unheard of back then. So this was a big deal, and it had to be expensive on the toy shelves, and I'm guessing it might have been too expensive for the average kid as they stopped making these giant playsets after this one I'm about to show you. So this was the big, bad, awesome one they tried out right before they kind of gave up on big robot playsets. This is Magma Base. I don't even know how to get him in the camera. He is so flipping big, it's ridiculous. Magma Base. Woo! He is about an inch shorter than Fortress Maximus, but so much wider, and in my mind, so much cooler. His critics will say he's a big block. Doesn't have any real posability. I mean, those legs are one giant brick stuck together. He has these arms that will do that and nothing else. But oh my God, is he huge? He's amazing. And wait till you see his base mode. Let's take a look at my favorite robot playset of all time, Magma Base. Let's start by acknowledging the obvious. Magma Base is so flipping large, he is larger than my set. So I had to zoom out today, and you're seeing a little bit of my little hobby space / work area / forbidden laboratory, because there's just no other way to get Magma Base in here. He is just too gorgeous a toy. I couldn't wait till I had a bigger set to work with. So this is what you got instead. For those of you who want a size comparison, let's put him next to Fortress Maximus so you can see how they measure up. Fort Max is a little bit bigger. Just a little tiny bit. But, man, it's almost unfair to compare these two. I think they were released for very similar reasons. They were released only 3 years apart, but they're very, very, very different toys. And all respect to Fortress Maximus, it's a great toy. And yet, what it, like many transforming playsets do, is sacrifices the base mode in order to have a beautiful figure. I much prefer the base. That matters to me more. And while this is a beautiful figure, I mean, come on, take a look at him here. Look at this guy. It's really his playset mode that sells this for me more than anything. And some of you out there aren't going to agree, and that's okay. And from what I understand, he's not a particularly beloved toy to anybody who's in Japan who's a Sentai fan. I don't know if it was because Fiveman was not a beloved series, or whether the toy was just too expensive, or that he looks a little too chunky for you, but I can't get enough of this guy. I don't know why he's not everybody's favorite. So let me walk you through the transformation. It's a bit different. It does cheat in some ways we'll talk about in a second, but I think it's worth it, and I think the end product is pretty darn cool. So here we go. First of all, we'll remove the head. Now this part they absolutely could have done a little bit better. It turns into a little jet thing. Don't mind those pieces cutting off. That happens sometimes. This is, they could have done better. You know, I don't know. Wheels might have helped. Turbines in the back. This is by far the weakest part of the toy. Beyond that, it's all up from here. So we've got that. These pieces just come off. Instead of transforming, things just sort of detach. I forgive it because I really like what it ultimately becomes. And this, besides, this doesn't promise to be a Transformer. It's a Power Rangers or Sentai toy. Don't call it Power Rangers, my God. I'll offend all of my Japanese fans, and I don't want to do that. Remove that. Here's where things get interesting. This lifts off. The Fiveman robot, Five Robo, whatever it's called, would sit right in here, and this is sort of an external mecha, an exo mecha that goes around it, which is a pretty cool idea, but this just sort of snaps in two. I'm going to be very delicate with this. But there we go. Just comes apart. We're just disassembling more than anything at this point. And then this part does that. This will be the heart of the actual base mode. Then we're going to move these guys around. So we're looking at the back of the original chest. And these pieces are going to snap in, just like this. Back here, we have a piece that swings out. Not exactly sure what purpose this serves, but it's there. I use this as a display piece just because I love it so much. I think it's such a gorgeous base mode. Let me zoom in a little bit more at this point so you can better see what we're dealing with here. All right. Oh, I did it wrong because I completely forgot. These need to be concealed inside here. We don't actually use the robot arms, we just hide them. Maybe that feels like a cheat. But honestly, trying to find uses for limbs is oftentimes the death of an otherwise great toy idea, especially transforming in base mode. It's why Metroplex has more ramps than he is base. This thing is trying to be an actual big, stocky, impressive-looking base. Let it go there. If you notice, this one is missing the middle black turret. It's because this is a repro. I got that one from a 3D printing specialist whose name I'll put in the comments. I can't think of it right now, but my gosh, is he good. And I never would have been able to get that piece affordably otherwise. This, again, my least favorite piece, just sort of sits here. They really couldn't have done better with that one. It's a beautiful looking base mode. And I'll show you more of what it does in a moment, but just, I mean, I don't know. That looks far more like a playset that I want to imagine my characters in than Fortress Maximus or Metroplex ever was. It looks cool. But also, this is the real selling point for me more than anything else, is I like how it stores the vehicles. Now, keep in mind, this was designed for the Fiveman toys, which I do not currently own. I'll remedy that eventually. But the way you get them in, is this supposed to store them, that just slides out like a boss. This comes down. We've got this part here that slides out that can either be a ramp. Oh, let me pull out a bit so you can see that. Or, I suppose it could be another sort of launch pad if you want it to be. And we're going to put, this is from Goggle 5, put that right there. Now, were these the original Fiveman toys, there would have been a way for it to connect on that hinge right there, if you see it, so that it could have actually gone back with this and stayed tucked into that little storage area back there. It would actually be able to stay in Magma base, even during robot mode, which is pretty darn cool. This part over here just slides up. You can put a vehicle in there. That'll fit nicely. And again, that would just be able to stay there permanently. It wouldn't need to be taken out in time for transformation. And then we'll put this guy right here on the landing pad. I mean, really, that's it. There isn't anything more special to it than that. It's just it's a beautiful looking base mode. It really, if you can't see it, you can't see it. Someone's going to say, I don't see why this is better than Fortress Maximus, and I can't fight you on that. I really can't. I look at this thing and I get excited all over again. This is just a toy that sparks my imagination. It's beautiful. It's simple. It's charming. And I can't speak highly enough about it. I spent years looking for an affordable version of this. And fortunately, Sentai prices, all Japanese robot toy prices seem to be coming down a little bit these days. And I was able to get this for a very reasonable price. And again, 3D print the parts I missed. But it's a piece of beauty. It really is. This is the point of the episode where I'd normally wrap it all up for you. And I'd be able to tell you exactly why this toy mattered and why it's worth paying attention to. The fact of the matter is I don't have answers this time. I love this guy. He's amazing. He's one of my absolute favorites. Mwah. But there's so much I don't know. There's so much information about Sentai that just isn't available in English. And I don't know where to go. So this is the first time I'm trying something a little different with you guys. Instead of me telling you everything there is to know about this toy, we're going to crowdsource this. I want you in the comments to tell me everything you know about Fiveman, about Magma Base, about Turbo Builder, about that entire era of Sentai, and whether or Bandai was thriving with its toys at the time, or whether it was in trouble, or really anything you know about that time period that might help explain this toy, how he came to be, and why Bandai stopped making toys quite like him. I guess you could say Pyramidas is a little bit like him, some of those other later giant robot toys, but they weren't playsets. They weren't Magma Base. So please, in the comments, tell me what you know. Teach me more about Sentai, because I want to learn everything I can. Look, I don't have all the answers, and I'm not afraid to admit I don't have all the answers either. But between you and me and us working together, we can find them. So please, drop some knowledge in the comments and tell me what you know. If you enjoyed this episode, please, please, please don't be afraid to hit like and subscribe. You have no idea how much it helps the channel. Check out other videos and playlists. And of course, if you're looking to talk more with a group of people who actually would be really excited to hear from you, get to know you, response you, and have a real conversation that's better than what you get in YouTube comments and Facebook comments, please check us out at classiccomics.org. We got a huge growing population of friendly geeks and nerds who really want to get to know you. classiccomics.org. I'll see you next time. Hang out and have a great one. Stay weird.